Okay, so today's video is going to be my top 5 Steam games that I bought that were worth it. So let's get right into it here. So the first game that I bought that was worth it would be Fallout New Vegas. I bought it because it was highly recommended by my cousin and my best friend. They were kind of saying like, "Oh, this is one of the best games you should try." Sort of like GTA and whatnot. Or Red Dead Redemption. It kind of had that sort of a stigma, one of the best games of its time at that point. And I didn't really know much about Fall to be honest, but once I played three and when I got into four, or when I got into New Vegas, I could definitely see why. So the second point would be that there's a lot of in depth when it comes to the character building, especially with the dialogues too. I think this is a key element of the Bethesda game series is that with games like Skyrim or Fall, there's a ton of character development, and each character kind of feels unique in a sense, and they may or may not be based off of people that you may or may not know in real life. So I like that kind of fleshed out kind of detail to it when it comes to the missions and the characters and just the overall kind of feel for these kind of games. And because of that, the third point I guess would be that I had to save and reload, or I wanted to, because I was sort of curious on if I chose plan A, what would happen if I chose plan B. And the fact that this game kind of made me save a lot and reload shows you how interesting Fall is to someone of a very, very high curiosity rate like myself. So that's pretty interesting. And finally, because of all this 3 points that I mentioned, it was a game that I played kind of on and off. I think the most I've played consecutively was like 3 or 4 days, maybe like 5 or 6 hours put into it. So even though that's not a lot by many people's standards, that's still a lot for me because usually I don't spend that much time on one fucking game for like 5 or 6 hours. But Fallout seems to have done this for me. So yeah, that's kind of my take on Fallout New Vegas. Definitely one of the best Fallout games I've played compared to um, Fallout 3, 4, and 76 because there's just so much more to do and everything feels very, very interesting, I guess. I don't know. The second game that I bought that was worth it would be Left 4 Dead 2. I bought it because it was a simple game that offered a challenge when playing solo with bots or when you're playing squad or if you're playing with other people. It is also one of those games that once you bought the game, you had access to pretty much free add-ons or mods because of the community base that would develop that would develop a lot of these very, very interesting add-ons that were reminiscent maybe of what they liked. Like for instance, like when I was into my Fallout 76 phase, I would try to download some, of the fall itself, like maybe like a Nuka-Cola for adrenaline or something like that. So I like how it kind of caters to people's specific interests. Like if they're into something, they can probably find it on the Left 4 Dead 2 workshop content page. Also, I felt like Valve has done a pretty good job of developing game modes that kind of suited a specific gamer's interests. So if you're very, very competitive, I feel like survival mode or scavenge or even realism or even versus will kind of suit your needs. Whereas if you were a more laid back fighter like myself, maybe campaign or co-op would be kind of your go-to kind of game mode. Finally, it's very, very easy to play. You don't really need a lot, to be honest. You just need to know how to move, switch weapons in between, and just shoot and fire. And that's pretty much the gist of it. It's kind of simple, you know? You don't need that kind of CSGO, phase optic kind of training. You just need basic training and you're good to go. It's not that competitive, to be honest, when you're playing against zombies. But when you play on realism or whatnot, then yeah, every shot you make better fucking count or else you're gonna meet a very quick death. Anyways, my third game that I bought that was worth it would be Hitman Blood Money. And I bought it because of this sort of unique FPS mode. You guys can check out my Hitman Blood Money review to see me use the FPS mode in person, which is really rare because Hitman, with the gameplay and series and all that kind of stuff, to me, Hitman is very, very third person based. Usually, when you're watching gameplays or when you're playing a game yourself, you're kind of playing in the you're kind of playing in like a camera view of third person where you kind of see Agent 47 and whatnot. But To have this sort of FPS feature in a very, very stealth game like Hitman is very, very rare, and I just thought it was very, very unique to be honest. And it was also pretty fun too. You can also bully NPCs by throwing them and watching them faint from hitting environmental objects. What I mean by this is that in Hitman Blood Money, you can sort of take an NPC hostage, throw them to the ground, watch them get back up, kidnap them again, and just throw them to the wall and watch them faint. And I thought that was a very, very dick move, but you know, it is a game, so it is what it is. But yeah, that's a pretty cool feature, cool new feature too. There's also a lot of diversity, or maybe some diversity in this game in particular. Because in Blood Money, you can visit France's French or Paris's French opera show in Paris or a wine brewery in Chile. So I like the kind of exploration kind of thing where you can sort of visit other countries as opposed to just the U.S. Because for me, when I played Absolution, I'd say like pretty much all the maps are based in the U.S. on different states. But I think with the older and the newer Hitman games, they've done a good job of branching out with different countries, especially with the 2016 Hitman and the Hitman 2 that just came out recently. Now you're visiting places like Miami, Mumbai, Bangkok, all these new countries that was really never implemented in the game in the past, or if they were, they've been brought back again with more detail into it and more reflective of the current country as well too. And I like how you can also upgrade your weapons to make them more efficient. So for instance, you could have like a bigger magazine, you could have a faster loader, you could make your recoil more suppressed. And I just like the kind of feature where, the money that you earn can be used to upgrade your weapons. I think that is the point of being a hitman, right? Is to be the best that you can be. Especially because you don't want to get caught into a gunfight, this is not Max Payne or some shit. So yeah, so my second to last game would be Insurgency. I bought it because, or my cousin bought it for me because I guess, I don't know. You can play co-op with friends, which I like because I'm more of a co-op based kind of gamer. I don't like to fight people online. I prefer to play with people that I trust, honestly. One of the best FPS games I've played because of the sound effects, and everything is very crisp. So sometimes when you're getting into gunfights, you can sort of hear like bullets crackle, guns being fired. Nothing too interesting, but I like the fact that it's very, very realistic and very, very natural too. Like it doesn't sound forced. It kind of sounds like you're actually in a sort of a war scenario kind of gameplay. And Insurgency, like other FPS games like Battlefield or Call of Duty, it's very, very based on teamwork. Meaning, if you're a Call of Duty gamer, don't think you can just run through this game. Like if it was Call of Duty. The bots are very, very smart too. They can hear your every move. They can sort of anticipate where you're going to come from, and they get you from such unusual spots too. It's just very, very interesting that the AIs are developed to be as challenging as they can be. Even the best gamer dies sometimes in these kind of co-op-based games because of the little mistakes that they make that will kind of lead to eventual death in the game. So with that said, my last game would be Painted Town Red, and this is those sort of beat 'em up, Hotline Miami's kind of Minecraft style to it. So I guess one of the points that are included was that again it's sort of a Left 4 Dead where once you buy the game you get access to a bunch of community created add-ons, so you can make the game as fun as you want, I suppose. Although it isn't as big as Left 4 Dead, there is still a lot of stuff to add that is really really interesting for people to try out. There's also those games where if you really, really want like a challenge or if you want like a stress reliever, this is definitely a fun game to play. You can just beat the shit out of NPCs or you can play with friends. It is very brutal and violent, and it is very easy to get, very, very easy to play and get the hang of. And when I mean sheer brutalness, I mean that like you can kick their leg and the skin will literally peel off over time to the point where you can see their fucking bones actually like show visibly, not beating though, but very very gruesome nevertheless. A very Hotline Miami kind of violent vibe to it. But anyways, that's the end of my review for now, or the end of my list. I will do a worst version 2, and that will come out soon.